this film wasn't actually about a father's choice, because really, it would seem he didn't have one. Okay, I've now had some time to recover from this. Hold up, why is this kid? If you want to see my full first reaction to this frankly unhinged video, then go over to my Patreon. But what follows are now my more considered thoughts on this film, having had some time to think about it. The film is called The Bridge. Apparently, this is meant to be an allegory for the atonement of Jesus Christ. But as we'll get into, not really a great one. The opening half of the film is, of course, spent establishing the world. We follow a family of 3, soon to be 4, which is comprised of the unnamed Luke Skywalker from Temu-looking father, the pregnant mother, and David. Poor, sweet David. This kid is so blonde one could describe his hair as white and delightsome, and this film frankly spends far too long setting up his idyllic relationship with his father. It's really trying to pull you in and make you care about this kid, but most people are going to pretty instantly connect with how cute this kid is and then not want anything bad to happen to him. And also, any non-psychopath is going to see a human child, cute or not, and not want anything bad to happen to them. My point is, you shouldn't have to sell the audience this hard on not wanting something bad to happen to a child. And when something bad does happen to him, this film just stops. Almost as though, like many religious arguments, this film wants to hit you straight in the feelings and then not spend any time probing the logic of it all. But don't you worry, we're going to be dissecting this film pretty thoroughly. So the father and David spend lots of idyllic time together, which winds up with them planting seeds in the garden. And then the father has to go and operate a railway bridge. Now this is the point already where the logic of this film starts to fall apart. The father has to cross the water to the control room, as the bridge is in a position to allow water traffic to pass. Now the bridge in question doesn't appear to be in a location where large shipping vessels or vessels with tall masts are transiting, so why on earth is it in a default position that is open to the waterways? Surely it would be by default closed to water traffic, because water traffic can safely wait for a gap in the train schedule, rather than perpetually having trains, notorious for their inability to stop quickly, hurling towards a watery derailment. If this guy, say, doesn't operate the bridge, or something were to go wrong with the bridge, perchance. And that is exactly what happens. Something goes wrong with the bridge. The tracks will not properly connect and the train is on its way. The father, in a risky but necessary move, manually keeps the locking mechanism closed to allow the train to pass. No big deal. He'll report the fault as soon as the train has passed, an engineer will be sent out to fix it, and any trains that would have used the bridge will be diverted or cancelled in the meantime. Well, that'd all be too easy, wouldn't it? Enter the mother, who we've established was pregnant.
David, I need your father.
Maybe something was seriously wrong with the baby. Maybe it was just on its way. But we'll never know because the acting is so poor that her request for David to go and get his father was so utterly devoid of urgency that I don't know what else, as the viewer, I meant to think other than, could this not have waited? Could it not have waited until the father came back from the control room, which she full well knows is either only accessible by canoe, so David would be stood on the banks not able to really call out to his father anyway, or accessible by railway, a railway by which it is only ever accessible when a train is coming. I know it was the 1970s, but this seems just to be basic safety logic. In light of all that, that woman knowingly sent her child onto an active railway. If anyone sacrificed their child in this film, it was the mother, and she did so for a reason that the film never really makes clear. I want to jump in here and say that on rewatching this film in the edit, at the beginning the mother says she'll send David, and the father just goes along with that plan, and declares this young child responsible enough to come and get him. Really, they are both to blame for this terrible plan to send their son out onto an active railway. Also, can you tell, is it coming across in this video, that I grew up 100 yards from an active railway line? I want to know if that's coming across. And although this film is meant to be an allegory about the atonement, about a father choosing to sacrifice his son, this film wasn't actually about a father's choice, because really, it would seem he didn't have one. The only thing he failed to do was try and tell his child to get off the railway. He could have called out, telling David to stop, but he couldn't have outrun the train to get David. David was already probably too far on the bridge to get himself off anyway, and I'm not completely convinced that releasing the lever wouldn't have derailed the train in a way that didn't just kill the father and David anyway, as well as all the passengers. So the father was never really choosing between the train passengers and his son, he was choosing whether to kill the passengers as well, because as far as I can determine, the son was a goner the moment he ran straight towards an oncoming train. Now on that point, David also seemingly had no sense of self-preservation. He just continued running straight towards an oncoming train. That lack of self-preservation, however, doesn't equal willing. And on this point alone, the film is just a terrible analogy for the atonement. Not only did the father not really have a choice because his son would have died either way, but the son didn't choose to die in order to save the people. Jesus at least willingly sacrificed himself. The kid was just sent into a dangerous situation by his negligent mother, with the agreement to this reckless plan by the father. And at first I thought the father's face when he watches his kid get flattened by a train was just more of the same terrible acting that this film has been serving up so far. But maybe this is actually an Oscar-worthy portrayal of the kind of psychopathic look that an omnipotent God would have in his eyes when he sacrifices his son, despite it being entirely within his power to fashion the world in such a way as to require no sacrifice for the salvation of his children. The biggest problem with a truly omnipotent God seems to be that suffering and evil are not necessary, but things which he allows by virtue of the fact that he could remove them, but doesn't. Unless those things are necessary and he can't remove them, in which case God is not omnipotent. But I digress. Even if we put all the technical issues to one side and take this film at face value, the core message emotionally seems to be something horrific can happen, but if it serves a greater purpose, if the utilitarian maths works out, then better one child should perish than a trainload of people die, to paraphrase what God told Nephi. But let's not forget, at least Jesus came back. Within days, he was strolling around making Thomas feel rather silly. This film just fades to black. The kid is gone. Where is David's resurrection arc? Instead, we just get a film full of emotional build-up. The kid dies, the seminary teacher says, but his death saved all those people, just like Jesus, and then done. Fin. No follow-up questions, thank you very much. But as we've established, there are plenty of questions to be asked, and if you have any more, please put them in the comments. And with that, be sure to check out my first full reaction to this video over on my Patreon, and I'll see you in the next one.